Before Hillbrow streets filled with taxi horns, steel shutters, and the scent of last night's smoke, Sarah lit her oven with a match older than her hope. The match flickered, caught the flame, and filled the cramped bakery with the smell of wood ash and rising dough. Her hands, powdered in flour, moved like memory, slow, stiff, but steady. The air was cool, the silence thick. Another day, another 100 loaves. Some to sell, one to give away. As the first light crept through the gaps in her tin window, she wrapped a small brown paper package, warm and soft. She didn't need to check the clock. The boy would arrive any minute, like he always did, barefoot, silent, his eyes steady, always just a bit too old for his face. She didn't know his name. He never asked for the bread. Never said thank you. But every morning he came. Sarah never asked who he was. She simply gave. One warm loaf, sometimes with a smear of margarine if the day before had gone well. He would nod, bow slightly, and disappear into the alleyways like smoke. That morning, she noticed the blood dried on his collar, the bruise swelling near his jaw. But still, he took the bread, gripped it tightly, and vanished. She said nothing. Just stood there for a long time, the flour on her hands falling like snow. Sarah Ndlovu hadn't always been this quiet. Years ago, she and her husband Themba had run a small bakery stall outside Soweto. They'd laughed easily, talked about expanding to Braamfontein, and saving for their baby boy's education. But the mines took Themba, first his health, then his body. A shaft collapse ended his life before it could really begin. No insurance. No help. Just a call and a white envelope. 3 months later, her toddler son, Luthando, caught a fever during a citywide nurses' strike. She carried him on her back from clinic to clinic. Each one turned her away. By the time she found a nurse willing to check him, he was already gone. She buried both dreams in the same year. Since then, she had only one vow: no one should sleep hungry if she could help it. Her neighbor, Thandi, used to warn her, "Sarah, you give too much. The world doesn't pay back." Sarah would smile, tired but honest. "I'm not investing in the world. I'm feeding souls." The boy became part of her morning routine. One day, he left something on her step, a small rock, painted with the word grace in shaky handwriting. Another time, he left a paper flower, wilted from rain. Still, he never spoke. And she never asked. Until the Friday when everything changed. She had a good week. Sold every loaf. She tucked our 700 cash into a flour tin under the counter, wrapped it in a plastic bag for safety. That evening, she stepped out briefly to help Thandi carry groceries. When she returned, the tin was open. The money was gone. So was the boy. She waited the next morning, holding the loaf in her hand. He didn't come. The next day, she didn't bake the extra loaf. By the third day, she stopped waiting. She didn't weep. Not then. She just sat on the floor beside the oven and stared at the ash for a long time. Days turned to weeks. The months. But Sarah didn't stop baking. She worked harder. Applied for a local women's grant with help from a nearby school teacher. Rebuilt the bakery. Painted the walls. Bought proper trays. She renamed the stall Mama Ndlovu's Rise and Loaf. She partnered with a local clinic to donate leftover bread to new mothers. By the end of the year, she was feeding over 60 children weekly. Quietly. No pictures. No press. And yet, every Sunday, she walked by Hillbrow's alleyways. Just in case. 5 years passed. One afternoon, a letter arrived at her bakery. Printed envelope. Elegant font. "Dear Mama Sarah, you are invited as an honored guest and speaker at the Johannesburg Youth Summit on Community Resilience. Requested personally by keynote speaker, Leo Molefe. Transportation will be provided." She stared at the letter for hours. Then folded it, placed it under the flour tin, and locked the bakery for the day. At the summit, surrounded by flashing lights and foreign faces, Sarah sat quietly in the back. She felt out of place. Her best dress still smelled faintly of yeast and soap. Her hands trembled slightly. The main speaker stepped onto the stage. He was tall now, dressed in a clean shirt and fitted suit. The boy's face aged and firm, but his eyes still the same. "Good afternoon," he began. My name is Leo Malef. I run the Bread Circle, an organization that now feeds and houses over 2,000 street youth across South Africa. The pause. I want to tell you about a woman. A woman who never asked for my name, never judged my silence, never turned me away, even after I betrayed her. Whispers passed through the crowd. She gave me bread every day. A bread I didn't earn. A bread that fed not just my stomach, but my spirit. When I stole from her, she didn't hunt me down. She simply disappeared into dignity. Turned. Mama Sarah, please come forward. The crowd clapped. Sarah stood slowly. Her heart beat against her ribs like a drum. She walked to the stage. Leo stepped down. And in front of everyone he knelt before her. I'm sorry, he said, his voice cracking. But I never forgot. Sarah's hands, once stiff with sorrow, gently cupped his face. You grew well, she whispered. And that's enough. Later, he took her to one of his centers, a bright, painted building with long tables, bunk beds, and children laughing. One girl, no older than 10, ran up and hugged Leo's leg. This is Zama, he said. She used to sleep under trains. Now she reads books. And eats bread. Just like I did. Sarah knelt, smoothed Zama's braids, and handed her a fresh bun. You remind me of someone, she said. Someone who reminded me of myself. Back at the old Hillbrow bakery, Leo returned a week later. He brought a frame. Inside it, the old rock he once painted with the word, Grace. And next to it, a fresh paper wrapper. On it, written in calm, practiced handwriting. I didn't feed a boy. I invested in tomorrow. Sarah placed it above the oven. And every morning after that, she baked one extra loaf. Still wrapped in brown paper. Still given freely. Just in case someone, somewhere, needed to remember the taste of grace.